So, hi everybody and welcome back to the C++ tutorial series for absolute beginners. This is video 186, and in this video we continue with the keyword friend because we have to discuss about the scenario where we make a whole class a friend to another class to access their private members. Here we can see already an example, but I want to skip this example because they use here inheritance and not a real use case. Instead, we create our own classes here, and I created here two classes. You can see very simple classes. The first one is called name, and it has only one variable in it, but this variable is private. And then I created here a second class, which is called numbers, and this second class has only one function in it. It is a member function. And now my goal is that this class numbers want to access the private members of this class name. And how we do this? And actually, it is absolute easy. You just write again, like all time, the keyword friend in front, and you say just your class name. For example, here, numbers. But careful, here we have a problem. This one works not. Why not? Let's start here. And you can see here's an error, and the reason they say here's something missing, type specifier int unsubed, and is here. Let's read the next line. Number friend not permitted on data declaration. So you can see there are strange error messages, and if you read something like that, it is not very helpful as a starter. And the reason is very simple. You make here friend numbers, but at this point the compiler again don't know what this numbers is, and you need a class forward declaration. But interesting is this class forward declaration you are doing not outside here at this point, you are doing it here directly where you say friend class numbers, right? And now when I start this again, it works. So that's why this finding and understanding this error is here a little bit hard for starters, but you can like all time search this online and no problem. So now what happens is this class here has access to the private member, but because public member we have anyway access. We are interested in the private member. And how we can test this? We can test this, for example, with this member function here. This member function I called here has no return type. It's called print name, and this print name function is interested to printing out the value of this private variable called first name. And how we do this, like all time, we have to create a reference to this name class, and we do this by name. And again, I use here const reference, this word const and this reference here, so that I don't change anything because I just want print this name out here in this function. And of course this reference so that I don't make a copy. And here I have again my variable parameter, which I called first name to see I'm interested in this one, and called it param. And now we can just use this parameter here. Let's use this, put this in, and use the access specifier, and you can see indeed I have access to this private member, right? Normally you have no access to a private member. What I mean with normally, let's say I uncomment this line, and you see here it's not accessible anymore because it's not a friend. Of course you could say, hey, let's change this to public, and it works again like old time. One solution, and it works again because public members we have access. That we know already. But the point is, there are many programmers who don't want to allow public variables, so they make it. They prefer private, and there are different kind of reasons. And like oops, and you should read. You should all read these reasons why you should keep it private or not public. And if you understand this, is nice. But you can see to make a whole class a friend of another class is fairly easy. And when we watch here this example what they used, you can see they have declared here on top a class. This is a full class, a very simple with no members at all, but it is a full class called Y. Then they called here a class, created a class A with some data members, a nested class, an enumeration, and here they called two versions of they made two versions of a friend class. So this version, what you see here, we made here in my example as well. And this version is just the version with the forward declaration because this comes later. So we are defining this class later. That's why we used here this forward declaration with the keyword friend. But the second version here, you can see this is not using a forward declaration. And the reason is very simple. You can see the order, the class here, Y, was defined here on top. The compiler knows it, so you are using just a normal class declaration here. And you can see it is just called friend Y. So I hope this makes sense. It is easy. It is not too complicated. And that's more or less it. The other examples here we skip because they use here inheritance, and we have not talked too much about inheritance, so that we can skip. But you can see it's very easy to get a full access of private members from another class with just one line. But important is here perhaps to mention that now you can create here many functions, different kinds of functions or whatever you want, and you have all-time access to the private members as well from this class. So as you can see, the second function here has also access, and if I would make here perhaps another private member, let's call this one int number and give it a 5, and let's say I want print out this time this number instead of this name. So then I write here just, for example, number param, and then I use here the number param because now I have this number param variable, number param. Then I use the access specifier, and you can see because I have access to the whole class private, I can just call it even this is also private. All right, that was easy, I hope, not too difficult, but important here, one more note, because we are using not this header files and CPP files, the order is important, right? You can see it here. We need here forward declaration so that the compiler knows, you are using numbers which will be declared later. So now I want go and go back to the first example because there is something which we have not talked too much, which is the second here line. And you can see it is a member of a class can be friend too. And we are talking here about a class member function, which is a friend of another class. So how does this work? Let's go back to our little example here. Let me delete this one. It's not so important. And let's say instead of the whole class here, I want just make one function a member of this class here who get access to private members, because like I said, there are people who don't want give access normally to private members, and in this case he just need one member function to access this private members. And you can see here this example how we do this. Very simple. We use again the friend keyword. And now we have just to specify this member function declaration. To do so, let's change our little code here so that only this one function has now access to this private member variables here. So how we do this? First of all, we delete this friend class here because we don't want the whole class to be accessible. right? But we want only this member function here. We just write again, okay, friend, like all time the keyword friend is in front. And now we copy this line here, the signature, and this is our declaration. We put it in, and you can see this is not really working right now, but of course we have here a little bit specify what this where we get this, and I get it from numbers, right? All right, let's write here numbers. And now we have specified it. That looks better. That looks similar like this one. You can see we have here the keyword friend. They have a return type. This is a function with a return type. It's a pointer return type to a character. And they have a class X with the function member function foo, and this tries to get access now to this class Y. In my case, we have here this member function of numbers. It has no return type, and it has the name here and tries to get access to this private members here. But when we go here down, we have a problem. This one says it's not working. And this is the problem when we use one file, because when we use one file and try to access here classes, we have to consider the order of these classes, because like I said, the compiler starts reading from top to down, and then it don't know yes, what is now accessible or what the compiler can use. And the order is very important, but we can avoid this in future with, like I said, with this header file and CPP file, because there the include files make it faster visible for the compiler, and it's much easier. But if you are using one file like this, then we need reorder this here to make this a little bit more possible. So how we do this? First of all, let's see what we do. First of all, we have here an error. This error says anyhow inaccessible. All right, how we can make this accessible? First of all, perhaps we can change here just the order. Now, this one is on top. And yes, this one is on top. But still, that was not the real solution. It's still not accessible. And now, because numbers is here and numbers we can see here name, perhaps we need a forward declaration to use that one here. Okay, let's try this one. Perhaps it works. Class name, that is our forward declaration. Okay, we did this one. Oh, this one is still not accessible. So I tried, right? This is so my goal. All right, perhaps we put this out of the class and use here just a declaration. Let's do this one here. All right, let's try something. So, oops, that was not the way, but anyway, let's make this one. So, let's put this here out for a moment. Let's copy this one here. And that was not the right way, but okay. It still works, and I want here this name numbers. Here I define it outside, and now it looks a little bit possible. It's now anyhow accessible. Yes, it works anyhow, but is this true? We can test it. We can see if the compiler is not complaining anyhow. Oh, it works anyhow, but we are still not finished. We have just rearranged a little bit. We made here a forward declaration. We put out this function definition outside the class. And yes, when we look this one here, it looks like a function which we declared here at the top, like a function which is not belonging to the class. But careful. This one belongs to the class because you can see it is a member function. This one here indicates, yes, this is still a member function of numbers. Where is numbers? Here. Here's our class numbers. This is a member function. We learned that we can define, of course, this declaration outside of the class. And in this case, we needed this. You can see I had so many access problems. It is working now, but let's see if this is really working. What I mean with that, this function one print this out, right? Yesterday, see out. Let's see if I can print this out. And now, to use this member function, I need an object because like the other function which we learned in our video, we could normally call the first function if it's not a member function, right? We could call print name, and here we can't do it because it is a member function, which means, okay, we need to create this object for this member function. This is numbers, so I need create a numbers variable. Let's make it numbers is my type. I call this numbers number object for fun. And again, I can use here this version because when we jump to numbers, there is no default constructor provided by me, so I use the provided default constructor for from the compiler. I hope you know this kind of stuff by now. And now number objects, let's see if I can call indeed this print name. Yes, I can call it. And of course I have to provide here like all time the right parameters, which means I need also to create a name object. Let's call this name object. Just for test purposes, because I need it here as an argument. Name object. Here's my name object. I call it. Now I test it. Now let's see if it's really printing out the first name, which is the first name, which is a private member. That's our final test here. Let's see. Yes, it is printing out that what I have. So it is working, but you saw what a hack it was with rearranging here this code that this is working. Normally, let's make this one here clear, because if you not rearrange this one, this causes a lot of problems, access problems, compiler complaining, and so on. And like I said, in the future, we will use header and CPP file where you just use something like this include files here. And then we have now this hack of a work to do something like in one file. But we have to finish first classes, and then I will probably talk about header and CPP files, and then we'd repeat more or less a little bit of all classes again when we use this header and CPP files. So I think that was that about it. That was this one. This constructor we can skip here. You can read this a little bit online on documentation. It is just that you can make a friend constructor. And the reason why we skip this here is because this one has sometimes a special meaning, and I want not talk about this at this point here, which is you can create, for example, let me tell you this perhaps, you can create here a friend constructor, for example, yeah, like you can see here, and you can make it private. And that's very strange because we learned, wait a minute, a class constructor must be normally public, right? We learned this. And the reason for that, it must be public because when you construct an object, you want to make, you need access to this constructor, and that's why a constructor should be public. But with this friend keyword, you can even make this constructor private to limit the creation of these objects by only friends. And that's why I want not talk about this kind of topics here. We will talk about this one when we talk about singletons, which also can use constructor private with static keyword and all this kind of stuff. That's why I want to skip this. This here we will make this in a future topic. when we talk about some singleton variations, patterns, and all this kind of stuff in the future, but we are interested just to learn this friend keyword now. All right, with that said, we are almost finished. There is one more thing, and this templates, like I said, we will skip it all because templates is a big topic itself. We have to learn first templates, and later we combine this with template friends and template million combinations with templates. That's another topic as well. But here is one more thing I want to talk. And the thing is, this friendship relationship. What I mean with that is, let's go back fast to our class here. We have here 2 classes. And let's make the easy example. Let's skip this member example. That's more irritating right now. So I go back to my start example because I want not make things too complicated when I explain something. And here we need an easy example. So let's see how I can make this very fast again. Okay, it was not the best way. Here I make just here this one. And instead of this friend here, we just write here friend numbers. Friend class forward declaration class numbers. You see, this one gives us whole access, and that's why this one is working much easier, straightforward and fast. The problem is the whole class has here access to this one compared to just one member function. But in our case, it's okay. So the point is here, one more thing, how this relationship works with classes. What I mean with that is, it's very simple actually. When we have here a class and I make this one a friend, and like I said before, this class here get access to the full private members with this one line. But important is that you remember and don't get irritated with this friend keyword in the real world friend keyword. What I mean with that is, most time if anyone is to one friend, then the other person is probably your friend as well, because if he is not your friend, you normally not friends together, right, in our real world. But in computer coding, this is not the case. What I mean with that, it's very simple. I made this class here friend to this class, which means I have access to your private members with this line of code, but that means not this class name has access to my private members if I have here private. That's so more or less what you have to consider all time when you read this friend keyword. That is only accessible where it is defined, and only this direction. So here you can see I defined it, this friend, I'm a friend of this class. And what is the object which is friend with this class? It is this class class numbers here. So this one is friend to this one because of this line here, and this class here has access to this one. But if this class name here want now access to this private members, this one line is not enough. What you have to do is now, if this class says, hey, I want access your private members as well, then you go to this class here and say, write the friend keyword, friend class. You don't need here class because we know this one is a forward declaration. Here it is already defined, so we can just write your friend name. And now this one has access, this class has now access to this private members. And so the important part here to know is that you understand only where this friend keywords appears, this thing here has access to the private members and not the other way around, right? So this is, I think, you can read this here a little bit more in detail how this works. here in this section, but this one caused also for starters a little bit problem, not because it's difficult, because they relate this to real world friend word, which is normally all time. Yes, like I said, if you are a friend of them, then you think he is friend of you, which means I have access to this, and this has automatically access to this, and that's not the case. You have just to think in C++, if you make a friend, he got access to this one, and if you want that the other one, your friend, should access to your variable, you have this other friend should make this line friend as well in your code, then it works. All right, I think it's better that you read this again in a good C++ book or on good C online documentation how this kind of works. It's not difficult, it's not more irritating sometimes. They are confused why they have only one way access but not other way around. But yeah, that's it. I think we can finish now this friend keyword and go on to other keywords or other things in classes. And yeah, with that said, if you have any complaints or any questions, suggestions, or anything like that, just write it in the comments. And like all time, I wish you good luck, never give up, and have fun. Bye.